we always laugh about this. And I'm like, man, we should introduce people, but I wouldn't do as good of a job as you would. So probably
Well,
introduce yourself, man.
if you're anything like my parents, you probably don't have a foggy clue what the hell I do. It's just the fact that I don't live in their basement. So that's the important part. Yeah. When I'm not riding my bike, avoiding dinosaurs in the woods, we run an agency here in Michigan focused on helping banks differentiate themselves online. We build bank websites, we host bank websites, we do digital advertising, we do social media, marketing automation, SEO, content, all the typical agency stuff. But because I've got 15 years of banker blood coursing through my veins, and my father did it for 33 years, I can't fight it. I'm genetically predisposed to be a banker, I guess. We do it just about exclusively for banks. And so it's been a great 15 years post-banking that I've been doing this. And I teach at a handful of banking schools around the country. I love being part of conferences and conventions and kind of opening eyes and having aha moments. And then probably the other thing that you guys are familiar with, because similar platforms, similar community concept. In 2020, we fired up the LinkedBanker.com, which to the best of my knowledge is the only community for individual bankers to come together from a mentoring and a mastermind perspective to build their personal brand. I know you guys have got bankers helping bankers, which is awesome. That goes a lot deeper into technology and all sorts of other nooks and crannies of the banking world. But at LinkedBanker, we really just focus on helping bankers figure out what their personal brand is. My father told me when I started in banking, if you're going to make any sort of career out of this, you got to figure out how you can be the banker that people want to bank with, not just somebody that works in the bank. And pre-social media, pre-digital, which is when we all started, you didn't have things like LinkedIn and Twitter and TikTok and blogs and all this other stuff that we had to worry about. And it was being in person, it was being part of events, it was being in the community, it was volunteering, it was late nights. But at the end of the day, it's really about just helping bankers put the shine on and make it as attractive to do business with them as possible, because you know and like and trust them as a person. And then you get a sense to understand what it is that they can do for you as a banker. So that's relatively short intro of what the heck I'm doing.
So tell me what you think from, okay, if you're a banker, you're sitting there, I think a lot of them would just sit back and say, I guess my personal brand is that I'm a banker. It's probably who you are around your friends, right? But how do you go deeper than that, right? What's your advice?
Well, I mean, it's all a level of comfort, because I've talked to some bankers that want to stay very private. So, and I get it. There are bankers out there that have been doing their job as a banker. They don't really want to share a lot of the stuff about them. And they're killing it and they're doing a great job, and they're not digitally present. They don't participate in social media and people get to know them. But when that happens, I say to them, but yeah, people still know you as a person, right? I mean, they probably know the name. They probably know your spouse's name, your kids or your grandkids. They know that you used to play softball or basketball, or you like to golf or garden or whatever. People still know you, even though you don't think of it as personal branding. You're just being a great banker and being a human. And we oftentimes get this, and I think some of it is beat on us from compliance and security and privacy and risk, which is all very important, that you can't talk about stuff, and we have to be really careful of what we say. And so it's easier just to toe the line and talk about the stuff that we know we can talk about. And that tends to be very boring and generic and stale and non-differentiating. But it's the ones that, get outside of the box and say, tell a story, give an example, add some humanization. It's okay to share funny stuff. It's okay to, tell a story that doesn't have squat to do about banking and has something to do about life in general, or something that's humorous or sad or vulnerable. Because when you do that, people are going to feel more like they know you. And like I said, know me, like me, trust me. I certainly didn't come up with those 3 words, but they're used universally by a number of people that talk about personal branding, even to the point where know me, love me, trust me is really where you want to go, where, people just want to do business because you're the man, you're the woman, you're the person that takes care of us. So
the things that you're talking about to bankers, I mean, first off, this is an ecosystem of packaging that you're putting together for these guys, not just, hey, we'll run your website. This is, a whole litany of things that collectively create a package that your company and what you're able to accomplish here.
Well, we've been lucky enough to join you guys on LinkedBanker.
Yeah.
Look,
the
first
I
thing
still get teased for that, by the way. Let me just kind of throw that out there. Okay. Apparently, I was pretty excited that you guys came on the show, and if the word fanboy was used once, it was used a number of times. So I shared some with some folks secretly that I was going to be on your FinTech Cowboys show, and jokes like, well, you're going to take a rag, so when you start drooling, you'll be able to wipe your chin, and some other stuff. So it's no secret I love you guys and what you've done, and certainly appreciate your contribution to the world of banking and some of the things that you've helped us with. So
you guys too, man.
Well, I was going to say, when we came on LinkedBanker with you guys, I often laugh, right? You compare things to your own stuff. Right. And so anytime I go to a conference, I compare it to our roundup. Right. And so going to LinkedBanker, I thought about, all the small rooms of our little collective things that we have. And it was so much different. Right. Even of the best of the coolest little groups and things, you had a group. Not only were you driving a different standard, a different, culture. Right. But the people there, you could tell, were different, right? Everybody was excited, jazzed up, exploring, right? It was fun. And it was really cool environment.
If I was a banker, I'd be in there in a heartbeat.
And well, the thing that I love about it, and you guys are building the community as well. And, I shudder to even mention Web3 or metaverse, because God knows what can of worms that's going to open for us to talk about. But this whole concept of building a community and bringing people together, the epiphany hit me for the LinkedBanker many years ago, and it was the pandemic that basically had to get me off my ass so that I did it and built it. But the fun part about a community, as I'm sure you guys are experiencing, is I see myself as a facilitator and an organizer. I'm putting together a really awesome cocktail party evening get together with a bunch of people that I know, and I like just introducing people together and then watching the sparks happen between them, and being the facilitator or the catalyst. And I bring things to the table, and I share some stuff that I've picked up over the 30 years that I'm hoping are helpful. But I've seen situations where CEO in his late 60s, couple years ready for retirement, set up a sidebar conversation with a new marketing director that was challenged and felt unappreciated. And how do I make an impact in my bank? And they set up a separate phone call. They had some dialogue, and I got emails from both of them, like, without LinkedBanker, wouldn't have been able to meet her. And, so I see stuff like that. And so the cross section of people, it's not just all commercial lenders. It's not all bank CEOs. We've got branch managers and marketing people and mortgage folks. So the cross section, I think, contributes to some of that feel that you guys experienced when you came into the LinkedBanker, because it's not just everybody that's cut from the same commercial loan cloth and we're thinking about the 4 C's and blah, 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 blah. It's, what is it that we really want to do just for banking in general, and leverage the knowledge and the experience that everybody's bringing to the table. And then the icing on the cake is being able to get guests like yourselves to come in and take it even to a level that I can't even touch. So it's been pretty awesome.
We laugh, man, because, from our side, we think the same way. I think we've just always thought about it in terms of data. And so I look at it, we talk a lot about ideal customer profile, right? And that's very businessy or corporate, like, what is the company and the product the company is selling? What is the ideal profile of a prospective client? But people are the same way. Yeah. If you think about it, right? And so we do a ton with data where it's like, hey, these are the groups that these folks should be focused on, right? And you see a bunch that comes up when you look through that perspective. I mean, I think about Bass banking right now and sponsor banks. very short list of not only companies, but people that are focused there, right? Same thing on the vendor market and the infrastructure and, everything else. Not just the companies, but I mean, you pick something like one of the cores, the larger cores. There's probably a couple of dozen people, if that are really focused in an organization that might have 20 or 30,000 people, right? And so trying to get the people connected,
Right,
is wild.
and the right people,
sometimes.
right problem. So this is the thing here for me. We've tried to create, there's a community bank group on LinkedIn, and every
good one.
other post in there, or maybe 3 in a row, are, hey, check out my product. And it's like, ruined it. Just ruined it.
I know exactly what you're talking about because they hit my feed just this morning, and same thing. It's like, where's the value?
It gets cool. We want to create, in Bankers Helping Bankers, a complete ecosystem. So the BAS Association is a piece of that. The platform is a piece of that. Selecting technology, solving real problems. Whether you want to sell your bank, how about we just find different ownership that can keep this charter alive? Marketing, let's send you over to LinkedBanker. Let's take all of what we're able to do here to where, hey, a banker could come in here, man, tell me your problem. We probably got the damn solution, and our solution is going to save your charter and make you money.
Yep.
That's it. If it didn't fit that criteria, we're not interested in playing, because we've got to grow and expand, not shrink. And if you look at these charts over time where it's like 172 bank de novos, 160 bank de novos, and then we down to like this many, right?
FinTech.
Right.
All right, but mergers. All right, what does this end up, guys? We die.
Yeah.
That's where this ends. And it's like people, the next guy that tells me there's too many community banks, I'm going to punch him in the face. No, there's not too many community banks.
Yeah.
I was here when there was 12,000 and there still weren't too many.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's what's going to happen. I'll predict the future, and FinTech is going to eliminate banking. And it's like, and
Right.
stop predicting the future.
Yeah.
Let's just stop that shit right now. There are banks that are doing really well. There are banks that are about to do really well. And there is a moment in time where we have to sit down and go, you know what? Since they were dealing with bones and feathers, banking has been here. I don't think it's going to go away. We're one regulation change away. We're one compliance issue away.
Yep.
We're one change of, branch banking laws. Golly, man. All kinds of one little move and the whole landscape changes. And I've seen it so many times. But the death of banking is something that I've been hearing about since I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm 61. So, I've heard this a long time, and they're still here. And then we find like BaaS banks, the banking as a service banks.
Making a fortune.
And they're kicking ass.
Yeah.
Okay. Then to your point, there's banks out there that aren't doing any marketing, anything, and they're kicking ass. All right. It's how we get the rest of the people to find other places where we can bring these people together and show them how to win. And winning is the whole deal.
Well, real quick, Eric, I want to ask you this. So completely agree with everything you said there, but I think we all know that FinTech, you got to turn a profit somewhere. If you showed a true, and maybe I'll do this, right? A true data ranking of banks and FinTechs, every single FinTech would be like 4,612 and down, below the 4,612 banks in profitability, right?
Well, yeah.
Every bank is profitable, and by definition, right? And every FinTech isn't. But we have seen a bunch of VC money there, which has given everybody a wide road to sit down and play and innovate, which has driven all of us to have to follow suit on some things,
Okay,
right?
so
I think personal brand is a good example.
Cool. Very cool.
Right?
Yeah.
FinTech people are pretty hip.
But this is where Eric comes in. Okay. He's watching all this. He's figuring this out. And he's like, okay, so I'm thinking like a banker now. How can I make that's the cool stuff incorporated into a bank world? Bankers, that's what we're talking about. Is if you kick ass like those guys do on the marketing front, contact Eric.
That's right. Man. There you go.
There you go. You just earned your $20. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
That's the truth, man.
To your comment on the BaaS banks, though, and I know one of the statistics that you shared when you joined us over at the LinkedBanker was sponsor banks and the revenue profile that they're putting up compared to a traditional bank and how it exceeds what a traditional bank is doing. And so that certainly sparked an interest. And I was excited, didn't end up happening because they found a partner before, but there was a FinTech out there that was shopping for a new sponsor bank, and we were able to throw it in. And we had 6 banks that were representing the LinkedBanker that raised their hand and said, yeah, they'd be interested. A little too late to the party. It closed and they found a partner, I think, before you guys even were aware of it. But that got me excited because just in the short time that we've done the LinkedBanker, the people that are part of this program, they got excited about what you said, and they wouldn't have had a foggy clue what the heck a sponsor bank was if it wasn't for being part of your session and hearing the income potential and going, oh, this is what Dave and Tanner were talking about. Yeah, put my hat in the ring. Let's talk. I have no foggy clue what I'm going to do if I catch it. You know, it's like reeling in the big fish. It's like, oh crap, now I got to take it off the hook and figure out how to fillet this thing. But catching it is at least the first step in the problem. The other thing that I thought was encouraging, and I do these marketing forums for a number of state banking associations where they get together every couple of months. And I was actually in Indiana. We had 32 bankers in the room. And one of them, for the first time, and I've been doing these for probably 4 or 5 years, put BaaS banking on the agenda as a marketer. They wanted to talk about it. Right. And most of the other marketers weren't even really sure what the heck banking as a service was. And we started talking about it and discussing it. And I said, well, you mean, what about direct banking? What about sponsor banking? I felt all cool because I knew the terminology thanks to spending time with you guys. But that was exactly what they were looking for. And of the 30 banks, I think there were probably 28 because they had some interns and some others. But of the 28 banks that were represented there, it was exciting for me to see a marketing director getting jazzed up and talking about some of these fintechs that they had seen and understood how banking as a service to be able to bring some of these in and how they were thinking about it from a marketing perspective. And so I'm hoping that that energy gets to start. And I don't know if the CEO is part of Bankers Helping Bankers and that got it going, but you know, this drum that we're both collectively beating, but with different perspectives, I think is going to do exactly what you just said, Dave, is it's going to help bankers maintain their competitiveness, build their personal brand, be relevant, and figure out how we can not be scared of the fintechs, but pull it in and how that makes people better. And
like when we talk about, okay, Bankers Helping Bankers, there's the platform, there's the BaaS Association. We just launched a fund yesterday. There'll be
the fund has been exciting.
There's all kinds of neat things happening. And under each one of those is a whole litany of things, right?
Yeah.
Think about the BaaS Association. Can you connect a fintech with a BaaS bank? Duh. Yes, we can do that. Can we create a BaaS bank? Sure. Of course we can create a BaaS bank. But here's the catch, and I want everybody to catch this really hard. Yes, this is where the money's being made, but be careful. There are a lot of, I don't want to say
bad actors. I'll say it.
Okay.
There's a lot of bad actors popping up right now. Do you really think all these consultants who haven't said a word about this in the last 3 years became experts last week?
That's my point right there.
Of course
I'm on his part where I get angry and everybody's like, ooh, I don't want to watch that guy anymore. I hate it.
As Cowboys, I'm expecting snake oil salesmen to come up in the conversation.
Yes, you got it.
You got it.
We
man.
shoot snakes. So here's the deal. There's bad actors out there. That's a nice way to say it. I was going to say a much uglier word, but they haven't ever built a damn thing. And these people that haven't built anything, don't know anything, they've never paid the price for the mistakes of giving bad advice.
Yes.
They just move on to the next guy and sell him more bullshit.
Yeah.
All right. There are smart ways to do this, very, very bad ways to do this, very expensive ways to do this. There are also some really not so great ways, but they're very cheap and they're a good stepping stone to a step B, right? And so maybe a little bit of a ladder approach. There's many ways to do this, but there are also many, many, many ways to do this wrong. Now, the idea that started this conversation is that this is the top 1 percentile in every earnings category are BaaS banks. Yep. There's a lot of them that man, they paid a hell of a price to get there. You don't have to pay that price.
Yep.
But if you go out there and pick up your local consultant who's never built anything, never done anything,
you're in a lot of trouble here.
Talk to a couple of guys, got some buzzwords and puts things together with a chart and it looks really nice, and then gives you the advice and you follow it, you could end up not in the 1 percentile.
Yeah, no doubt. Look, I think something that's important, Eric, that I've been just watching, we all have over years. I don't know that every banker's really looked from this perspective, and it's that those innovation cycles are getting tighter, just faster. This doesn't look any different than, look, trying to figure out faster horses, right? 100 years ago, in banking probably looked really similar. If you sat down, the words were different. The stuff was a little bit different, but it took a long time, the revolution, right? To go all the way around for something to change.
Yep.
Now we're seeing that stuff to where, I mean, zip, and I mean, the world turned over when you woke up in the morning, right? And I mean, there's lots of little revolutions of that wheel, right? All over the place. I
I
think,
love the way you said that.
yeah, I
It
mean,
made me, you know, I got this vision in my head. This is why when you guys like Eric, right? I got this vision in my head of Faster Horses, Pony Express, Wells Fargo, you know, and then
Yeah,
somebody comes along with that, the wire. And
What?
You talk about a sales guy.
Yeah.
He's like, so how does the wire and the horse thing? And it's like, no, it's electric. No,
it's an electric horse.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Okay. That guy's a salesman.
But I mean, those cycles are just way tighter now, because think about the infrastructure that we have. I mean, if you have an idea, you can go to LinkedIn, or I mean, we have the World Wide Web. I mean, you can do all kinds of stuff now way faster. And so I think the velocity of innovation is what it's changed. Not so much the world hasn't completely rolled over. What do you think?
Right. Well, and then the other thing, and I'll throw in a little plug for one of the programs that I get to spearhead as the coordinator over at the Graduate School of Banking in Madison. But we launched the Digital Banking School, which, to my knowledge, I'll say that again, is the only banking school curriculum focused on helping with digital banking. And it's 8 sessions, 4 weeks, entirely online. We've had a couple hundred banks go through it. And I went into this program at the request of GSB, hey, help us build a curriculum, figure out who's going to be the speaker, blah, 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 thinking that it's just going to be a core bashing fest and technology. But one of the things that I realized, while technology is certainly important, kind of going back to the reason why we started the LinkedBanker and everything else, is culture within an organization is going to hold you back way more than the fact that your core provider doesn't have an API to a fintech. Because chances are, if you look in the boardroom at your policies and your procedures and your approach to underwriting and vendor management and due diligence, all of that stuff is precluding you from being able to pick one of those fintechs that's at the 4,600 and lower, because they're not making money. They haven't been around for 5 years. They don't have a client list of 30 banks that they're currently working with. So procedurally, you can't even invite them to the table, even if they would be a partner of yours that you would want to be able to hop in bed with and say, hey, let's take on the world and do something different. Yeah. And that culture shift, you know, you talk about paying the price and the mistakes, you know, the banks that are innovative see those mistakes and the financial gaffes and all the other stuff that happens, not as a problem requiring disciplinary action, but they see that as the tuition of learning and improving and making themselves better and going, well, we spent 50 grand there and that didn't work. Now we know, as opposed to spending $500,000 and really kind of getting into a hot mess. So there's a lot of that cultural stuff, which again, just goes back to some of the branding items, because at the lowest common denominator is that banker who's carrying the message, building the relationship, earning the trust of the community and the customers and the prospects that are out there. And if they're not able to do it because the top's not empowering them and allowing, you know, there's some serious concern that I've got. And I'm sure you guys do as well.
Yeah, we talk about
there's
it.
a lot of
Actually, we had a
pieces.
call with a person yesterday that, you know, we had the culture conversation. That's what we call it, the culture conversation. And you know, it's like playing football. Get your mind right. You know, if you're not ready to go out there and hit somebody at the line of scrimmage, you're going to lose the game. All right, get your mind right,
or get hurt.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Culture is kind of that way in the banking side. If you don't have your mind right and you don't have your arms around this, that we're gonna go forward. All right. After you've made that decision, it's when I would like to talk to you. I'm not going to try to talk you into the future. I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah.
After
You
you've made
haven't
that
decided
decision,
to make it.
yeah, once you've decided to join the future, I can show you how to get there.
Yeah, well, I get calls all the time. Eric, you would be shocked. And I mean, you would blow your mind, dude. How many bankers call me and ask me to talk to and educate their consultant? Are we serious right now? Okay. And they're like, can you help our consultant build an RFP? And I'm like, where the hell are we? Have you lost your mind? This is unbelievable. No, I won't educate your consultant.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? Right?
Do you mind if
And
our
so-
consultant sits in on this meeting?
Exactly. I'm like, of course I mind. No. Right? You can sit in, but no, I'm not gonna educate your fake educator.
I'm helping you for free. And then you want to bring in the guy who's charging you money.
Come on, man. No. Okay. And so things like that, those are two.
That was classic.
Let me ask you a question because I just got one in the email, but still, I'm going to respond to it. I'm excited about the opportunity, but it's got those 3 letters, RFP. And I think and it goes back to culture. We got to have an RFP. We got to talk to, and sometimes if you don't know, then I get it. You know, maybe you want to kick the tires, you're going to shop for a new car or pickup or whatever. Mm-hmm. You might not know, so you're going to want to maybe take some for a test drive. But how does a bank culturally get outside of hey, we got to fill out an RFP?
Yeah.
And if they don't do an RFP, how do they make sure that they're picking the right vendor that's not going to leave them with any sort of post-purchase anxiety of, oh, crap?
I'll give you my 2 cents first. This is easy.
I want you to give yours last because
all right, go ahead.
Great. I'm going to sell his ideas.
Sit down, Junior. Dad's talking.
Oh, shit, right?
So, when we talk about culture, right? Okay. This is a culture of cover your ass. I got an RFP so I could show my board I got an RFP. So whatever decision we made, I didn't make it, we made it.
That's true.
Okay. That's got to stop. That's not how you make smart decisions. When you're in command, make a damn decision and stand behind it. You're going to get fired if it's wrong anyway.
Yeah, that's
okay.
true.
Get over that.
Yeah.
Now, there's right decisions and right ways to go with this. And Tanner always talks about the way an RFP is written to a particular vendor. I want you to address that.
I'll put it to you this way.
Yeah.
I would never respond to an RFP because if one showed up, it's written for me. And if it wasn't written for me, I can't win it because it was written for somebody else.
That's it.
Because the process is BS.
Yeah.
I rarely have ever seen one. I've done like maybe thousands, if not hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. You can tell how much I love this. But
I kind of touched
there's always some junk in there, right? Like somebody has a brother-in-law or somebody knew so-and-so. Like, where does this information that gets put in there come from? And that part of the process, by definition, is witchcraft, right? It cannot be
right.
It cannot be above board.
You said
because you're trying to educate to build the document. And what were those education sources?
You said
the people
really,
trying to sell shit.
Really good there. You said the RFP is written for a particular player, right? All right. Now, guys, raise your hand if you think the best products and technology are in banks today. My hand went down.
No way.
Okay.
No way.
That's the result of this process.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which tells you it's kind of screwed up, right?
Not really working.
Not really working. All right. This is exactly, I want everybody to catch this real quick. This is exactly why LinkedInBanker exists. This is exactly why Bankers Helping Bankers exists. Is so that you can go to places now where you don't have to do that dumb process. And let's talk about disruption and digital transformation and all these cool things that we're all really into and we're spending all this money on. The answers are free. They are right in front of your face. Go take them. There are people like Eric, LinkedInBanker, Bankers Helping Bankers that are trying to help you.
LinkedBanker. I'm gonna get LinkedIn sending me cease and desist.
I'm sitting on the back porch and I'm like, Eric, and he's like, Eric, good. I'm LinkedIn Banker.
No N. There we go.
Stuck in this for years, like a year or two now. Yeah. You're just in it, man. I'm sorry.
You have to change your name now. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, he won't. I mean, this is like once a week for a year or two. Anyway,
I love it.
Yeah. Hey, I want to give you final thoughts. And the way I always do this, man, you can talk about anything you want. It doesn't have to be banking, anything that's on your mind, what's going on, anything at all, what you're seeing, trends, whatever. Just take a couple minutes. And one that I always leave with, what did we not talk about? Or what did dummies like us not ask that we should be asked, right? What are we all not thinking about that we should be thinking about? Anything you want.
And if you have any like 110-degree fishing tips, I'd like to hear that too. But go ahead.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to help you out on any fishing stuff. So I apologize for that. That's not my cup of tea. If it's anything mountain biking related, I can probably help you out there. So I got you covered. The thing that I'm trying to get my head around now, and I know you guys have touched on a little bit, and this has kind of mapped my journey in the banking space. I was involved in the bank. I built my first bank website without a policy, procedure, approval, or budget in 1995.
Mhm.
for a $70 million community bank in Little Marshall, Michigan. And I remember rolling into the board, granted I had probably a little bit of liberty because my father was the CEO, but rolled into the board and said, we've got a website. And without exception, every single board member said, what is that? Because they were just barely familiar with AOL. They had no idea that there was even a website that you could go to if you left the AOL ecosystem. And that was back when banks were mailing diskettes to do online banking. And that was enough. That was good enough. That's your faster horse. Why would we need anything more than that?
Yeah.
And then I introduced email, and then I introduced social media and other things. So when I left the bank, I was getting people asking me when we started the WSI Digital Agency, do I really need to be paying attention to Facebook? Do I really need to be paying attention to LinkedIn? Isn't that just a resume farm? What the hell is Twitter? And why would I want to be tweeting and telling people, I'm eating a pizza or drinking a Coke or whatever the case is? And now that is kind of an accepted norm. This next tipping point that I'm seeing at the cusp is related to this. And I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. This whole Web3, this metaverse, these NFTs, this crypto. I hear people saying, why do I need that? Why do I need a picture of a freaking monkey? Why do I need to worry about putting on goggles and going in to do virtual stuff? That's an area that I'm starting to try to familiarize myself, because that goes back to community. That's the reason why we went online with a website for marshallsavings.com, which you have to go to the Wayback Machine now to even know what the hell that was, but it's there and I've gone to it and it's kind of fun to have the nostalgia. But building these different types of communities, that's really where the next community, I guess, horizon is, in my opinion, and figuring out what bits and pieces. There's going to be some winners. There's going to be lots of losers. You got to be careful, just like walking into a big city, what area of town you're in. You just don't go willy-nilly wherever. You got to be careful. But just like there were questions around, should everybody in an organization have access to email? Should we have a website? Should we be on social media? Should we? It's that next thing. And I suspect that there's going to be future conversation that you guys will have with other people that are way smarter in this area than I am. But that's the next horizon that I'm thinking we need to be paying attention to. And we liken it back. You mentioned the Telegram example. I remember doing some research for a project that I was doing. It was a presentation several years ago. And it was an excerpt from, I think, like the New Yorker, the New York Times. And it was a dialogue about why the shifting change and speed of technology was detrimental to the fabric of society. And it was slamming the Telegram versus the Pony Express, and why somebody would instantaneously need to know that somebody got married in San Francisco if they lived in New York. There's no reason why you should have to get that information. 3 days is completely sufficient to know that minuscule, unimportant bit of info. And the Telegram was going to cause society to fall into a hole. And you read that and you would swear to God that they were talking about Twitter.
Right.
But it was the Telegram. And you guys have maybe seen that article.
I haven't. No,
That's
you
a great
grabbed me
story
though.
of the
That
day
is
right there.
That is really
That is
cool.
so cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's that shift. This is the next Telegram. This is the next website. This is the next email. Telephones weren't on everybody's desk when they were originally introduced because they cost money and they were a threat to productivity. And you had to dial an extension to get a long distance number because people wouldn't get their work done. And now we've got ubiquitous access to phones and email and the internet, and we're okay with that. But this next thing scares the bejesus out of us. And I don't want my employees on LinkedIn because they're going to say something dumb, or they're going to violate privacy, or they're going to, share information that's going to get us in trouble. Yet they can walk into the vault and have access to hundreds of thousands of dollars of cash. It's just the priorities.
Well, the cool part, man, is that's why people want to call us. I don't know the answers to everything, but I know the people that do. And it's like crypto. I mean, it takes a long time to really learn this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But in 5 minutes, once I understand it, I can explain it to somebody and they're like, oh, okay, I get it. Nobody explains things worth a damn to bankers. And so this is my point. You want to learn about Web3. You want to talk about, the metaverse or different things like that. Okay, 6 months from now, it becomes an issue for your bank and you want to talk about it and learn about it. You don't have to spend 100 hours of research to figure this stuff out. All you got to do is call Eric, and in an hour, he'll have this whole thing laid out for you, and you go, okay, I get it now. That's cool.
We spend so much time. Look, we're all looked to all day, every day by everybody to have all the answers and to be right. And a banker's the same way, right? And eventually, if you let that go to your head, whatever the next thing is, you're going to pass judgment, and that's going to be bad. And so I'm always on his ass. That's why we're a good duo, right? I'm on his ass all the time about just assume that we're wrong about whatever we're thinking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
First principles, devil's advocate, whatever you want to say. Let's look at everything and let's explore the possibility that we're dead wrong.
Right.
Right. And we call it, just he and I, we call it roll it around. Let's look at this thing from different sides.
Spin around.
And we'll argue with stuff we don't even agree with just to look
Yep.
at it. A lot of times we uncover thoughts and we're like, we never would have looked at it that way if we hadn't thought about it and if we just assumed that we're right.
Well, and, there needs to be a world where we take guys like you, guys like us, and like most bankers, they spend money on subscriptions or whatever. When there's people out there that are experts all over the place, and they'd love to do things for free if there was a way to do it. And I would wish there was some way to where just pay a subscription to Eric and call him anytime you need him.
That's the right way.
Rather, that way he can run his business, he can survive, and he can stick around to do things for free for everybody. That donation you pay to a person like Eric would help other people along the way.
Yeah, be great.
And it's a system that we need to have at some point so that we can get the BS out of the way and people can tell the truth and help each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Awesome
find
having you.
me get connected. So the LinkedBanker, not LinkedIn Banker, right, Dave? TheLinkedBanker.com. And then our agency is powered by WSI.com. WSI is the world's largest and longest operating digital agency network based out of Toronto. I'm one of the 1,000 consultants in 80 countries around the world, but our office focuses almost exclusively. We've got a couple of legacy clients that are non-bankers, but we focus exclusively on any new business just in the banking vertical, taking care of banks. I get the compliance, the hosting, all that stuff. That's where you can find me. LinkedIn. I hang out there quite a bit, and I'm usually commenting on one of your guys' posts. So if people are following the FinTech Cowboys, they'll probably run into me too.
Do you think we could get Bree to throw the logo up on the screen, like right here, and make it go ding? Hey man, thanks a bunch. I really enjoyed it. It was good talking with you.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it. The Cowboys.
This was a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
All right, man. See you later.